Okay, Traffic Committee, Gerard.
So on Traffic Committee, the PCTI project on the Newtown Borough Integrated Transportation Circulation Study, so the pedestrian and bicycling study that we want to conduct, and we have dollars from federal government that's being administered through PennDOT. Remember, we selected Jacobs Engineering as the consultant to do the work with us. We're now at the stage where we need, and PennDOT approved Jacobs as a consultant, and our process used to select Jacobs. They now need to approve the price proposal that Jacobs is putting forward. And I circulated before sort of the price proposal, which included a scope of services and then a detailed price proposal dated October 21st, and also a professional services agreement. What I'm looking for this evening is the permission to send the price proposal part into our project manager at the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, who will then in turn work with PennDOT, and ultimately, if PennDOT approves that price proposal, we will then down the road, we will enter into an agreement between the borough and the consultant on an agreement around this price proposal that is prepared by PennDOT itself. I guess the question that I have, will we still have a consultant agreement, services agreement with this vendor separately, or will the PennDOT agreement be sufficient? And who pays? And I did get clarity on it. You asked that question, Bob. So how this works is that the consultant is paid by the borough, who is in turn reimbursed by PennDOT. So the consultant submits an invoice to the borough. We certify that invoice. We send it along to Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, who then certifies it and sends it on to PennDOT's central office, and then PennDOT sends us a check. So we budgeted correctly. So we have $30,000 top line, on expense and revenue side. So, and I know Paul took a look at both the agreement and the price proposal, and you had some questions, but I sent you some additional information which sounded like answered some of your questions.
Yeah, my concern with the contract that was presented is it's proposing a lump sum of $30,000, and from what I received, it looks like the idea is they're going to do the job for $30,000, regardless of how long it takes and what amount of work they need to do. But when you bring the price proposal into it, and it sort of breaks it down hourly, and I know Jim Briggs, who you were dealing with over at PennDOT, raised the question, well, that sounds like a low price. Are they going to be able to complete it for that amount? Sort of is the same concern I have. Is I'd like the contract to clearly state that this is a do not exceed amount, that it's going to be $30,000 for the completed job. Because once you bring that breakdown into it, my concern is they're going to come back and say, well, we've already expended the 122 allocated hours, and it's going to go beyond that, so we therefore need more money. And I don't think that's what anybody expects, but looking at the contract objectively, it's not 100% clear.
So do you want, and I agree with you, I think that's a good thing to put in that the services agreement. Should that go into the price proposal itself, or?
Well, it seems like the price proposal is just something to satisfy a specific PennDOT mandate, at least from the emails. That's what it appeared to be. So if they're not looking at the contract, because that's where it's this one paragraph at the end of the contract regarding compensation, I'd just like some tweaking of that language to make it clearer that it's $30,000, period. And if PennDOT's not looking to review the contract, then I don't think you need to include that to them either. So that should suffice. And just for council's edification, I had pointed out a couple of other provisions in an email, and I don't know if Gerard and Julia circulated it, but
I did.
just some other comments about the provisions in the contract, which are pretty standard for this type of contract. But it's an unbalanced, allocation of release indemnification and ability to recover attorney's fees in the event that there's some sort of dispute. It's obviously in the favor of the contractor. So depending on how much leverage the council thinks that they have, we can go back to them and ask for some modifications to the standard form language, but whether they would accept it or not, obviously, I can't tell.
So, sorry, Mike, I know you have some comments, but what I would like to get accomplished tonight is for us to agree to the price proposal being sent to PennDOT. And I think we can, in your comments and perhaps other comments from council on the contract with Jacobs can be handled separately.
I believe that's
just
correct,
between
yes.
us, yeah. The two parties, Jacobs and us. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean.
No, I was going to suggest if you want to, if it's done, make the motion. My comment was on that last point, but that can wait until the motion is
Okay.
made.
So I'd like to make a motion to forward the Pennsylvania Community Transportation Initiative price proposal from Jacobs Engineering through the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission to PennDOT for review.
Moved and seconded. Any additional discussion?
No, I'll vote, then I just had a comment for the
Oh, okay,
solicitor.
okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. If there's no additional discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And my comment really is for you, Paul, to follow up on what you just said and what Gerard just said on that language, I guess at the bottom of, or middle of page 3 of 4, compensation to be on the basis of.
Mm-hmm.
Because right above it, it says Task 3 deliverables, draft integrated transportation circulation study, final integrated transportation circulation study, and then two sentences down, it says, should actual expenses exceed the lump sum amount, which seems to be the offensive language then.
So in reviewing it, what I believe they're referring to, and this is part of the problem, is there are professional services and expenses. And if you go to the price proposal, actually, one of the comments I had on it is that they don't break down what part of that $30,000 is expenses. So in the price proposal, it breaks it down as labor cost $29,250 and direct costs other than labor is $750. So presumably, if their expenses exceed $750, then the borough would have to come up with the additional reimbursement for expenses. Again, that's what I think it means, but the fact that we don't really know what it means
Right.
is part of the problem with the language. It's
But-
just too vague.
Right, but to your point about clarity and certainty, it seems to me not to exceed means just that, not to exceed, period. Professional fees, costs, expenses, whatever, and that language
I
is a
would think
problem.
so, and that's why
Yeah.
I think that we just need to, and again, I think we're all on the same page, at least from the emails, it seems like we're all on the same page, it's just that the language needs to be clarified. So what I would ask from, and I don't think a motion's needed, is I'll just because I'm assuming this is going to be voted on in December, is that the plan, Gerard? Will we have a comment
Well,
back from PennDOT?
if we have comments back from PennDOT. yeah.
Okay. Then what I would suggest is I can try to negotiate this agreement and the language in the agreement with Jacobs over the course of the next few weeks and try to clean it up a little bit.
They were trying to save, and we did a couple $100 tonight, but even going over a couple $100 on this, $30,000, which was allocated as a grant, is money out of our pocket we don't otherwise have to pay if it's a number certain not to exceed.
Right.
So
That's where I think we need to go. Okay?
I sound like you, Bob. And I
All
meant
right.
that in a complimentary fashion.
Okay. Anything else on that under traffic, Gerard?
No, other than the next meeting of the traffic committee is this Thursday evening in Borough Hall at 7:30?